Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if Naruto gets Hera pregnant. Percy Jackson. Before I start, please support for more amazing content and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by XL Avenged Soul and link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. Naruto's POV. Decide for the 100th time today, would everything have to be so troublesome, he thought. If you're wondering what caused this to happen, is that Naruto found out that this world had some weird looking one-eyed monster things. Though they didn't bother him, so he just went on and about to his regular life in this world. He still has his powers. Also Jubi made him the second Jubi. He then wandered on and about how he entered this world. Flashback. Ahahaha. Madara laughed insanely as he said he thought his dying words, "I'm not going to die without taking you down with me, Uzumaki." Madara quickly devised a plan, and only one word can describe what he was about to do. Amui, one, Madara yelled at the blonde-haired teenager. Naruto, who was still looking at Madara, widened his eyes. You would have thought they pop out before he started screaming, due to the pain of Kamui sending him to the other dimension. Percy Jackson. The Jubi that was inside Madara felt pity for as he looked through the boy's memories and decided that the boy has gone through a lot and made Naruto the heir of the Jubi, making him the second Jubi. Flashback end. Naruto POV. He quickly regained his thoughts and decided he would go out to eat some dinner. As he walked through the streets of what these people call New York, he was looking through the sidewalk, looking for something that might satisfy his stomach until he saw a raiment store. Couple hours of slurping later. Phew, that was good, he said, and if you're wondering how he knew the language of this new world, is because he, the most unpredictable ninja of Konoha, spammed buttons like a god and told them to defeat his worst enemy books. Sure, it took a while, but he was able to master it, efficiently. He decided it was time for him to leave. That was until he was a very beautiful woman across the street. You describe it the best way you think possible. Aphrodite POV. Aphrodite, yes, the Greek goddess of beauty, decided it was time for her to go up and about and search for a good man to bed with her. She then flashed out of her temple that was up in Olympus and walked down the street to find a good man, but to find absolutely no man that she would like to bed, so she kept walking around until she found a very handsome blondie looking at her across the street. She quickly identified that this man was very tall, at least 6'5", 6'6", and had a lean but muscular look into it, like a swimmer's body, but when she looked up at his face, she couldn't help but blush at his face and whisker marks. Before she realized something, the man had whiskers on his face. Before she then approached the blonde man across the street. Naruto's POV. He saw that the beautiful woman that he was watching was currently crossing the street and walking towards him. If people saw him on the outside, he would look very calm, but on the inside he was currently thinking of what to say and how to act. That was until the woman finally approached him and said, "Hello, may I ask the name of this handsome man?" "My name is Uzumaki Naruto." Whoops, I meant to say Naruto Uzumaki, sorry about that, but I'm used to saying it in Japanese formalities. By the way, what is your name?" he asked kindly but with a small blush on his cheeks. Said woman answered, "Well Naruto, my name is Aphrodite." He snickered at the name and thought seriously, who names their child the goddess of beauty, though I can't really blame them for that either. Aphrodite POV. The man named Naruto Uzumaki she heard as he introduced himself to her. She then realized something: she didn't charm this man into bedding her yet. "Hey Naruto, how about you come with me to my apartment and have some fun?" Aphrodite said with her charming effects added. She already had booked an apartment perfect for their lovemaking when he finally gave her will to her and bedded with her. Naruto POV. When Aphrodite said that quote, he suddenly felt eager to follow Aphrodite before he suddenly blacked out. Warning lemon, M. Aphrodite quickly knocked him out and flashed out. She used a mist to hide her and took off all her clothing and chained up Naruto before going to Naruto and removed his shirt, but blushed seeing his ripped 12-pack before going lower to his belt and unbuckled his belt. Suddenly Naruto awoken, but to be under some handcuffs locking him onto the bed. She saw that Naruto was looking around with confusion in his eyes before seeing her, but blushed as she was naked as the day she was born. Aphrodite then continued what she was doing and removed his boxer before widening her eyes, seeing Naruto's tool was at least 11 inches long and 2 inches wide. "What are you doing?" yelled a red-faced Naruto, completely oblivious that he was being raped. "I'm just getting ready," replied Aphrodite before stroking his tool. Naruto, who was innocent before now, was moaning since he never masturbated or had sex in any way before he was full mast. It was at least 12.5 inches long. Aphrodite was wondering how hot this lovemaking would be before she claimed his tool in her mouth and took in at least 7 inches before bobbing her head up and down on his tool, with Naruto moaning on the way. Naruto never felt this good in his life, and due to the war and his Jinchuriki status, he never really had much love from others, so he never experienced what it was like. Sure, he had trained with Jiraiya, but he never truly did have sex before. Aphrodite kept doing that for a while before deep-throating him before managing to get at least 10 inches in and started bobbing her head up and down faster than before until she tasted some of his pre-cum and liked the taste before going even faster to get his seed. She then felt his tool twitch, signifying he was about to cum. Naruto felt something trying to burst out of his tool. He doesn't know what it is before he saw stars and exploded with his seed going all into her mouth. Aphrodite's eyes widened when she felt the amount of seed that bursted out of his tool, nearly at the fact. That one shot nearly filled her mouth, and that wasn't just one shot, but at least 11 shots of cum down her throat. I'm pretty sure that amount is impossible, but it's a story so YOLO that would possibly fill nearly one tint. Naruto's orgasm faded and whimpered because it was the best thing he'd ever experienced in his entire life. He then saw Aphrodite lift her butt into his face and opened her nether lips and said lick it. Naruto, being the curious adult he was, did as he was told because he never experienced this before and began to lick it and was surprised when it tasted like miso ramen before he got addicted and started to want more until he heard from Aphrodite, "I'm cooming." Aphrodite said in between her moans until she came all over Naruto's face, who happily licked it all up because it tasted like ramen. Ramen freak. Aphrodite then got up and straddled his waist and positioned her nether lips against his tool and then quickly impaled herself into her, which got moans from both of them. Naruto then said, "Why are you doing this?" He couldn't speak at first because he was shocked. Aphrodite replied and said, "I need a good release." That sealed the deal because she began bouncing up and down while Naruto is under her with his eyes locked onto her breast until she pushed them together and said they're yours with a purr and a send before she was tackled by a blur and was under Naruto with his eyes clouded with lust, love, and kindness before he started to pound her like a cheetah chasing its prey. Naruto's then lowered his head and licked her breast before capturing one into his mouth, all the while Aphrodite moaning through the way before moving his hands up to her breast and playing with them. They were originally on the sides of her head and was surprised when milk started coming out. Aphrodite moved her hands down to push Naruto deeper into her breast, like the way he was milking her, until she felt her end coming and used her godly powers to make Naruto come with her and started kissing him hotly before moaning screaming her release onto his tool before her eyes widened when she felt his seed enter her womb completely filling it up. Naruto then collapsed on top of her, considering he was a virgin before this, and pasted out on her bed. Aphrodite then fell asleep onto the side of Naruto fully well, knowing her womb was going to produce a child, but she currently only had one though in her head. This isn't going to be a one-time thing, she thought. Chapter 2 start. Naruto wakes up in 2 soft round pillows on top of his face without opening his eyes. He moves on of his hands up onto the warm pillow and squeezed it and heard a moan. Wait a second, pillows don't moan, he thought before opening his eyes to see the large mounds on his face and started blushing that would make a certain Hyuga green with envy. Naruto then regained all his memories of the lovemaking with Aphrodite and began to blush even more. That would make said Hyuga die in envy. He then tried to get out of the grip that Aphrodite had on him, but had no progress of getting out of her grip before he sighed in annoyance and used Kawarimi no Jutsu and replaced himself with a log that Kami knows where he got it. Aphrodite woke up to something hard under her and looked down to see a log. She then heard a person say, "Where am I?" She quickly recognized it as Naruto and said, "In my bedroom," like it was the easiest thing to find out about. "Why am I here?" Naruto asked curiously. "I mean seriously." He wakes up to a naked person he had sex with, no idea why. Aphrodite decided to show her true identity as a Greek goddess of beauty and replied with, "I am truly Aphrodite, Greek goddess of beauty, and you just totally had sex with a goddess. I mean, hey." She wanted to see his reaction to this. Naruto heard that she was a goddess of beauty and dropped his jaw in shock. You would have thought a dog could enter his mouth, but he had one though going through his head. "I'm totally a man to have sex with a goddess." Aphrodite then decided it was time for her to return to Olympus and said, "I'm going to head back to Olympus." With a flash of light and perfume she was gone. Naruto then just went on with his day, but internally he was thinking about training and seeing if he got rusty, so he decided to go train, but he had no training room to withstand his jutsus and major fist of destruction. He learned it from Tsunade. He also needed to practice his Juubi mode since he became the second Juubi with all knowledge of ninjutsu, jinjutsu, kinjutsu, fuinjutsu, kinjutsu, etc., all of the elemental nation stuff. Olympus. Aphrodite came back and started bragging about the last sex she had with Naruto, stating of how good he was, though it wasn't like anybody cared about who she had sex with. Time to add Hera. Somewhere on Olympus. Hera was mad no scratch that furious that her husband Zeus had cheated with her and had another child with some random woman, but it wasn't just the fact it was a child, but knew he had 2 children from the same woman. She decided to show what it might feel to Zeus of cheating and having another child with another person and flashed down to New York. Somewhere in New York. Hera wandered around to search for a man to give her a child. She didn't want her child to look ugly and have a terrible personality, so she went to look for the most handsomest, kindest. Naruto also didn't add loyalty because he would be having a harem. She wandered on and about to find the perfect man to give her a child, but then saw a blonde-haired man come out of the forest sweating. She then realized that the man was very tall and handsome with a lean build, unlike a muscular guy, just one of the swimmer's body. Few hours earlier, Naruto decided to build his training ground in the forest so nobody can watch him. He also put Fuinjutsu seals to protect the training grounds from getting blown to bits. He knew that when Juubi died he gave all the knowledge, all the Rikido Sennin and knowledge of elemental nations, ninjutsu, jinjutsu, etc. He then spammed Bushin like a god he was and told them to practice each different kinds of the elementary jutsu, jinjutsu, taijutsu, kinjutsu, and etc. Present. Naruto walked out of the forest sweating only to see a brunette with brown eyes, also her height was about 5'8" before the woman approached him. Hera then approached the blonde-haired man and said, "Hello, my name is Kyle, what is your name?" "My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and if I may ask why you have approached me?" Hera was internally thinking this man will be perfect, he is handsome, kind, and now how do I get him onto my bed? She did the best way to get him to bed her. "Naruto, would you like come over my house for a cup of tea?" Hera said, but internally she was going to drug it with aphrodisiac so we would get clouded with lust and better. Naruto internally just thinking it was a cup of tea thought it was no harm, so he just replied with a easy sure, why not? Hera was thinking about how stupid this man was, but no worries, he would forget about her until her child is born. Some random house in New York. Hera opened her door and gestured for Naruto to enter, who happily did, but not before taking off his shoes. "I'll go make the tea, make yourself at home," Hera said before leaving him in the living room. Naruto did as told and tried to get as comfortable as possible in the couch that the living room had. After a few positions later he finally got comfortable, but by then Hera returned with 2 cups of tea. Few minutes earlier, Hera in the kitchen. Hera was boiling the tea before pouring it into 2 cups and dumping aphrodisiac into one of the cups. Naruto's present. Naruto drank the tea, but he suddenly felt hotter, like the room was getting scorched by the sun. He looked over to Kyle Hera, he saw that she was perfectly fine, so he voiced out his thoughts. "Excuse me, is it just me or is it getting hotter in here?" Naruto asked with general politeness he usually has in his tone. Hera decided it was time to get her that child to make her husband jealous, yet she knew all the consequences of what she was about to do. Naruto saw that she was deep and though before stripping himself off all his clothing and was blinded by lust before he was tackled by Kyle Hera. 1. After. Hera or Kyle binded all the mist onto Naruto and teleported him home so she won't remember her or Aphrodite, though she doesn't know that he had bedded with Aphrodite. Naruto woke up but had an unusual feeling inside his head before shrugging his head and went back to his daily routine. 9 months later. Naruto still couldn't get the feeling off his head before he heard a knock on his door. See a flying shoe-eyed man who later introduced himself as Hermes, but that wasn't the only thing Naruto could see, but there was a child with blonde hair and blue eyes like his. "Lucky bastard," Hermes said when he saw there was another person on his window standing there with another child in his hand. Naruto confused what was happening since he had mist focused on him. 2. Hermes then decided to remove the mist off of him before Naruto had one thought in his oh shit. And oh shit, Naruto is in a terrible situation of one of the most strongest women in the world. Chapter 3 Start. Naruto, who saw the flying on winged shoes, could glare at the man. Well, he was in a situation of life and death. 2 angry women. Well, why are you wondering why they are mad? Well, let me tell you what, they just finished childbirth and to find that their man was having an affair with another goddess. Hera, well, she was just mad that her son wouldn't be able to have all of the father's love, but only 50%, while the Aphrodite's daughter got the other 50% of the father's love. While she knew that Naruto would be loving both the children equally, she was just sad that her son wouldn't get all of the father's love. Aphrodite, well, she was just mad that someone stole her man and bedded him, but she decided it was time to break the silence and said, well, this is our daughter, Hikari Namikaze. Hera then introduced her son. This is Rain Namikaze, son of Hera and Naruto Uzumaki. Said Hera in somewhat of a cheerful tone cause of having a child of her own, but also said it with some jealousy in her voice, with the fact that her Naruto was being with another woman. Naruto, who did a double take hearing the Queen of Olympus was one of the mothers, was very shocking indeed. Naruto, who regained his balance, started creating clones which shocked both Hera and Aphrodite. She was having erotic thoughts and ordered them to go get some diapers and other baby materials. Naruto then decided to ask them if he could hold his son and daughter, which they gracefully accepted. Happy he didn't really care if he just banged 2 goddess. Hera, formerly known as Kyle, decided to reintroduce themselves since Naruto just created a clone like it was nothing, meaning that he must have had some kind of other powers to write. Which all 3 of them agreed to. My name is Hera, goddess of marriage, women, and childbirth. Hera introduced. My name is Aphrodite, goddess of beauty. 1. Aphrodite introduced herself as. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, second Juubi primordial god of chaos, destruction, and also a force of nature. Naruto said with a slight cheerful tone since he literally is the Naruto Uzumaki, nobody can shock him well, unless you're Sasuke Catalyst. Both Aphrodite and Hera were shocked but that didn't really faze him, Naruto, since he literally could be the ending of the world and the almighty force of nature, can bend nature to his will, which he could make all the nature die, causing humans to die out, which results in the less prayers to the gods, causing them to fade away. They both shouted and said what? How in the world did you become a primordial god? Well let's see, I came from another dimension when I was fighting a madman try to control the world with a plan called Infinite Tsukiyomi and well he uses a eye called the Sharingan and used a time-space technique that literally makes a rip in the world and goes to a pocket dimension or in my case a different world. But that doesn't fully explain how you became a primordial god. Hera demanded. Well when I was traveling the dimension I'm pretty sure Juubi the god of our world made me his successor. Oh wait a second, I forgot something, the madman named Madara was going to combine the 9 Biju, which were created long ago by a man labeled Rikido Senin, and separated the Juubi into 9 pieces, 1 Ichibi no Shukaku, a 1-tailed raccoon, Nibi no Matabi a 2-tailed cat, Sanbi no Asobu a 3-tailed turtle, Yanbi no Son Goku the 5-tailed monkey, Gobi no Kakuo the 6-tailed slug. Nanabi no Chimei the 7-tailed butterfly, Hasibi no Jayuki the 8-tailed octopus ox, and finally Kyubi no Kurama, the 9-tailed fox which was sealed inside me. Pandan explains of chakra and elemental nations. Also, Bijus can be sealed and mostly used for weapons and human sacrifices and treated with disrespect, beaten, assassination, overpriced food, kicked out of stores and restaurants, and mostly glared at and called demon, Naruto explained, which got both goddess to cry out in sadness and grief of what he must have went through, but in the end they both hugged Naruto and said it was time for them to leave. Well I think this is the start of a new generation. Naruto shouted when both goddess teleported out of his house, which by the way consisted of a 2-story, 3-room, and 4-bathroom house, which he had to say was the best thing he had yet. Time skip 12 years later. Both Hikari and Rain Namikaze had grown to very beautiful and handsome people, most likely due to the fact of Naruto's good looks and also cause of their godly mothers. During those 12 years Naruto had experimented on those furies and made a seal to block off the scent of the demigod presence that he heard from the goddesses that occasionally visited to visit their child, which confused both Hikari and Rain because their father was seeing 2 women at once but were later told that each had separate parents, with Hikari as Aphrodite's daughter and Rain as Hera's son. They don't know they're demigods, but they know that they are different from others. Hikari had grown up to be a blonde lady with blue eyes like her father's and standing at 5'3" with a C-cup breast size. While most people admired her because of her beauty, it was also because of the fact she was a genius like her father, but sometimes she would have her father's quirks consisting pranking, easygoing, and laid back. Rain had grown up to have his mother brown hair, but also had some blonde streaks in it. Add that fact he had his father's blues eyes too. He also consisted the height of 5'8", a very good height for a 12-year-old. His personality took fully on his father, but also sometimes had the fact where he becomes very serious when his half-sister gets threatened because of the jealousy of not being as good as his sister. Well, back to Naruto. During those years he was very nervous due to the fact his children were going to school which he couldn't supervise at, so he was pacing around the room and calling the principal nearly every 5 minutes, which annoyed the principal. He also started sending clones with hinges to look like an animal, but got better when he slowly saw that nothing was happening. Back to the brother and sister. Rain Namikaze had done a lot during these school years. I was applied with me and my sister into Yancy Academy. Well, that's how you'll find me and my sister talking to our best friend Percy Jackson before we find out about our demonic math teacher. Damn, I'm going to kill her, Percy sneered at Nancy when he threw peanut butter onto Grover, one of Percy and our friends. Don't worry Percy, I like peanut butter, Grover said, trying to not cause any trouble since he sniffed out and felt that she was not a regular human. HMP, we don't care Grover, they're messing with you, maybe I can give her a few pranks or so. I said with a mental cackle of glee when I was finally going to prank someone after so long. Well, that was until my sister whacked me on the head. Stop cackling out loud. Hikari said, which made me realize that I was cackling out loud, which caused the fact that everybody near us exception of our friends paled due to the fact of my amazing pranking skills. That was until Nancy threw a large blob of peanut butter onto Grover's face, which caused people to snicker at him, but stopped when the water out of the fountain grabbed Nancy and threw her in. People around them started whispering to each other, but I only caught glimpses of what they said. Hey, did you see that water? Move out. And grabbed Nancy. But both I and Hikari knew it wasn't us who did it. That was until Nancy screamed, Percy, and Rain pushed me. Percy thought he knew what kind of punishment he was going to be in and said, I know 1 month of cleaning textbooks. He finished out with a grumble. I thought I knew what was going to happen, but didn't expect this to happen. No, come here and follow me. Which aroused suspicious glances from both I and Hikari, but we both did as told and followed until she finally said, "Where is it? I know you have it." That got us, Hikari, Percy, Rain, confused with one thought going through their heads, what do we have? They kept thinking until changed to this bat-like creature. Rain Namikaze then thought to do something that I found in my father's scroll. Chidori. I said as I ran towards the fury and pierced the heart. Whoa. Brother, where did you learn that? Hikari demanded. Tell you later. I said, looking at the wide-eyed Percy, who was thinking my friend can create lightning. All of them didn't notice Chiron's eyes following them with a question glance in his eyes and thought. Who are you, Rain and Hikari Namikaze? Rain Namikaze had just killed my demonic math teacher with some kind of scroll I found in my father's study. Rain, you should call your parents. Chiron had said to me when I asked where was our math teacher, but he told me there was no math teacher other than Mr. Kerr, so I did, but what I didn't expect was my father to tell me to come home with my sister, so we did. Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki had found out a fury attacked my children when my son had called home, hopefully both of them are alright, but I guess it's time for them to learn their true heritage and powers. Dad, I'm home, Wit Rain said when he had entered the house, but before he was cut off by his frantic father who was asking him if he was alright or hurt anywhere before Rain had yelled, "We are fine, Dad." Sorry, just worried like a father should be. I had said to my son before was tackled by a crying Hikari, who said there was a flying bat-looking Thingy attacking her brother and her best friend Percy, which got Naruto suspicious that he was a demigod. I then decided it was time to show who they truly were and what powers they should get, but before that I had to ask how they killed the Fury. Son, how'd you kids kill the Fury? I said, but was shocked when he said that he had found something inside my scroll and labeled Chidori, which got me to finally tell them about chakra. Kids, let me tell you the truth about you two were both born from separate mothers, and not just any mothers, but from goddess of Olympus, Hikari Namikaze, daughter of Aphrodite, and I, Rain Namikaze, son of Hera, and I said, which got both of them to be shocked but winced when they screamed out, son of Hera, daughter of Aphrodite. Yes, but that's not all. Your amazingly cool father has cool powers that you guys can learn, such as the Chidori, but I also have to give you something. I said to them when I was actually talking about implanting an eternal Mangekyou Sharingan I had got from Sasuke. Flashback to the past. Naruto, Sasuke said, breathing heavily as he was breathing in his last breaths, take my eyes, Naruto, show that Uchiha aren't dark and evil, show that the Uchiha are were feared but respected, show that we aren't consumed by darkness. No, Sasuke, you aren't going to die. What about your family with Akira? I had screamed while bailing my eyes out to my brother and all, but blood was dying from a fatal wound Madara had gave him before camuing away. Naruto, bring peace to the world you can do it, Sasuke said before dying with a smile on his face because of redeeming himself in the end. Why? I said before thinking I'll end you, Madara, for all the things you've done to havoc this world. Flashback end. Shaking his head out of his thoughts, he then said to his children, I'll be giving you power from an old friend of mine, but it'll require a transfer of an eye. Which had shocked both of them about losing an eye, but settled down when they realized that their father was not asking, but pleading for them to take the eye, so they accepted. First, let me explain what this eye can do. The left eye can create black fire called Amaterasu that can burn fire for 7 days and nights, which I'll be giving you, Hikari. The right eye can create an indestructible armor called Susanoo, which you'll be getting, Rain, and for the fact both of you can use an illusion called Tsikumi that can cast illusion for 72 hours, but seconds in real life. Now, any questions? I explained to both of them, which they both understood but had one question. Does it hurt? They both asked, which got a shake of a head nodding to negative, then started the transfer. I had pulled out a container of Sasuke's EMS, which got both of my children to shiver in disgust. Then I used eye transfer no jutsu, made up I think, and transplanted the left EMS into Hikari's left eye and the right EMS into Rain's right eye. I then took a step back and looked at my children's new eye, a 6-point wheel with a shuriken inside of it, Sasuke EMS. How do you feel? I asked my children, which they replied. Fine. Rain said. A bit dizzy, but I'm okay other than that. Hikari said before I decided to bring them into my pocket dimension, which caused them to look at my own Rinnegan Eternal Mangekyou Sharingan, 9-pointed star with rings surrounding it. We arrived inside the pocket dimension, which they asked what it was and replied, Kamui, a space-time technique that you can learn later on when I teach you. I then instructed them how to use their perspective eye powers. Susanoo. Rain cried out before Hikari had said Amaterasu. Hikari yelled out before black flames came out of her eye, and Rain had a 2-headed armored Susanoo. Great job. I said with great joy and pride since my children had activated their EMS powers in their first try. I then decided to find out their chakra natures and teach them some jutsu. I pulled out 2 chakra paper which I handed to them and got a confused look from my children. What is this for, Dad? Rain said with his Susanoo off with a green glance from Hikari. This is chakra paper which can find out either you have fire, wind, earth, lightning, water or any sub-elements like storm, wood, ice, crystal, swift or blaze release, which you will both have to work together to use since Susanoo grants control of Amaterasu. I explained to both my children. They both took the chakra paper out of my hands when I instructed them to send chakra to the paper, which they did. They learned already when he was explaining how to control EMS, but I was surprised when I saw what elements they had. Rain had lightning, fire, wind and had storm release. Hikari had fire, wind, water, earth and wood release. Wow, I said with wide eyes that showed pride to my children, but quickly snapped out of it and summoned 7 scrolls for each element and taught them some jutsu kaiten. Fireball no jutsu fuiten. Compressed air bullet cage bushin no jutsu, they used it to learn faster, Mokuten. Navity world of trees ranten. Light fang raten. Kirin raten. Chidori raten. Chidori spear raten. Chidori senbon doten. Wall of earth suiten. Water dragon kaiten. Fire dragon bullet fuiten. Godly winds of Kami Doten. Swamp of the underworld and Doten. Earth dragon. After I taught them jutsu I kamued back and told them I had to send them to a place called Camp Half-Blood, but they both could clearly see he was sad because of the tears that were streaming down his face. He couldn't handle it, his children were growing up so fast and leaving him behind, which got him to sob harder, and that got concerned looks from his children that walked up to him. "You okay, Dad?" Rain asked me with concern laced into his voice. "I'm okay, just my kids are growing up so fast and are leaving me behind. What happened to the goose and the gauze ahhhhh?" I cried out with tears in my eyes, which just got a sweat drop from my statement. "Don't worry, Dad, we'll love you now and forever," Hikari said, making me cheer up instantly, then realized it was about to be dinner, so he decided to cook some dinner before his children would be going to Camp Half-Blood. Next day. Today's the day my children are leaving me, I thought before getting out of my bed and doing my daily routines of showering and brushing me teeth before cooking breakfast for my children. I walk into my children's bedroom to wake them both up, but see them waiting at the table with a giant smile plastered on the beautiful faces. "Mornin', Dad," my kid said to me before I grabbed the breakfast I had made, consisting pancakes, eggs and apple juice, which they chowed down with no mercy. "Dad, can you take us out today for some fun and go to this camp at night?" Hikari said between chewing her food, which got a scold from her father telling her that she shouldn't eat with her mouth open. I had no reason why not to, so I answered with a why not, which got a squeal and a whoop of excitement from Rain, who was eating his pancakes yet again with no mercy. Nighttime same day. Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki had one of the best days with my children after going around and playing at amusement parks, shops and even a movie featuring the Maze Runner, but all good times had come to an end when the sun finally set, signaling it was nighttime. We then proceed driving to Camp Half-Blood with my amazing Lamborghini Agusta while talking to my children for what might be a very long time. "Just remember, kids, I'll support you, not matter bad or wrong, and will always love you," I had said, which got teary eyes from my children. Well, the moment ended when a roar situated a couple of blocks ahead where there was Camaro with a Minotaur Bullman, I had called it. Before driving full speed and jumping out of the car with my children and telling them that this was practice for fighting against real-life monsters without their father there. "Susanoo," Rain yelled before slashing his Susanoo arm down to the Minotaur's head, which it blocked before hearing another yell, but a feminine one. "Amaterasu," Hikari yelled, letting out a jet of black flame hitting the Minotaur, who cried out in pain when he was burning till he was nothing but ashes, but nonetheless will reform later on. Rain Namikaze saw my best friend Percy and a half-goat guy that I realized was Grover and some woman that must have been Percy's mother. I turned around to face my dad and sister, with my dad patting both of us on the head with pride in his eyes. Before I heard Percy yell out in disbelief, "What the hell?" which got a smack on the back of his head by my father, who told him no cursing in front of his kids, which got me to glare at him only for my father to wink back at me. "That was powers we got from my father," I said, pointing toward my father, who had his eyes in an U-shape with a smile on his face. "I mean, seriously, how the heck did he do that?" "Well, let's head into our car, we'll drop you off into camp," my father said before he drove off full speed, which we arrived in 10 minutes to 15 minutes or so. Naruto Namikaze just realized something stupid as I drove toward the entrance of Camp Half-Blood. He was a primordial god, he could enter the place, which made him very happy because he could be with his children. We then arrived into Camp Half-Blood, but I decided to try to drive my car in, which worked, and that woman Sally was able to get in with his permission, of course. I then parked my car near the river before seeing a horseman walking, or was it trotting toward us? "Excuse me, sir," the horseman said. "Yes," I said. "Well, are your children demigods, and that woman here is Sally, isn't it?" Which he got was an affirmative nod, but stiffened when the horseman had asked. She can't enter if she isn't a demigod unless a god grants her perm. He stopped mid-sentence when he realized who and what he was because I literally drove a car in here and let Sally in without any problem. My name is Chiron, what is yours my dear lord? Now named Chiron had said. Well no lord crap first and I'm not a god from here just something power and those three are demigods in one's something I have no idea what it is, some kind of donkey maybe. Secondly is my name is Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki and pointing toward my son and daughter is Hikari and Rain Namikaze. I said which got sweat drops from the people from the statement of Grover. Nice to meet you, why don't we continue talking inside to someplace comfortable? Chiron said which got us to leave the car and follow him to a modern style house that was quite large, but that wasn't the only thing, but was the surroundings were tons of training equipment and lava climbing etc. After arriving to the big house we talked about demigods and how he was a primordial god, also who we are and where we were going to live. I was going to Mokuton. 4-pillar house while Sally is going to sleep in the Hermes cabin until Percy is claimed, also both Rain and Hikari were going to sleep inside of the Hermes cabin despite the protest from Naruto. That was until was time for dinner which I had sat myself on a table I had made using Mokuton, which got some people to get confused after all he was a god controlling one element and sub-elements from the main element. I walked into the dining hall and was instantly filled with loud chatter, laughs, and some screams for somewhat of a reason. I was handed a plate of food from some tree-looking person like all other people, but they stood up and sacrificed some food into the fireplace. You have to sacrifice some food to the gods. Apollo child, he introduced himself as Will Solace and told him that the gods like the smell of burnt food. Thanks. I said as I walked out and prayed Aphrodite and Hera, which my children did too before all of them froze and stared at my children, but I saw a floating ring above Rain and Hikari was dressed in something very fancy and made her even more attractive, not that complex, just admiring his children before Chiron broke the silence. Rain Namikaze, son of Hera, goddess of marriage, and Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, primordial god of destruction and chaos. Hikari Namikaze, daughter of Aphrodite, goddess of beauty, and Naruto Namikaze Uzumaki, primordial god of destruction and chaos. All of the campers and Chiron had bowed while saying this. Chapter end. Mount Olympus. There was the sound of a thunderbolt flashing, signaling the meeting of the Olympian Council, which consists of 12 Olympians, 14 is after Perseus, but there is one thing that you could hear no see is that fact that it wasn't just one thunder strike, but many so. Zeus was downright furious. Well, if you're questioning why this crazed man filled with lust and cheats on his wife would be angry is because the fact his wife just cheated on him and had sex with a blonde and had a child with the same man. He then called a meeting for the Olympians and flashed himself to the throne room. All 9 Olympians flashed in with stunned looks, while Zeus had a furious look before Hera flashed herself a while later with Aphrodite by her side. Explain yourself, Hera. Zeus demanded with fury, and anger latched onto his voice. I have nothing to explain to you, Zeus, with the fact that you have had sex with many women and had gave them children. Well, I couldn't do anything simply because of loyalty, but you have crossed me this last time, Zeus. Hera exclaimed. Zeus' face turned red from anger and shouted, who is this man Hera, so I shall find him and throw him into Tartarus myself. Showing the fact that he thought he was superior and doesn't need help to throw this puny human and show him who is king. But was clearly stunned by the next statement that his wife had said about this man. His name is Naruto Namikaze, who is the father of both Rain and Hikari Namikaze and is primordial god of chaos and destruction, and add the fact that Hikari is from Aphrodite. Hera said back to Zeus, her so-called husband. Now everybody, including Zeus but excluding Aphrodite, were shocked at the fact that this Naruto person wasn't just a human but a primordial god, but that wasn't until Athena stated, I've never heard of a primordial god of destruction and chaos except Perseus. The 9 Olympians, not Hera or Aphrodite BTW, turned their heads to Hera, who had a smug look on her face and said, that's right, he's not from this dimension, but from a dimension even humans could take down gods easily. That caused the 9 Olympian gods to widen their eyes in shock with the thought of dimension hopper and humans who could take down gods. But before that they saw a big flash of golden enter the room and saw Lady Chaos, the creator of the universe herself, was standing in the throne room before she stated. You can't defeat Naruto Namikaze because he has the power to destroy galaxies in minutes, but no less this world in the matter of seconds. Chaos stated. How is that possible? Nobody is capable of doing that. Zeus said with no hint of respect to their creator. Silence. I am creator of this universe and you'll obey to what I say and will not attack Naruto Namikaze. Chaos said, but nobody knew the truth of why she was acting this way, but only one will know herself. She forbidden them to not attack Naruto is because she loves Naruto Namikaze. We are gods, we can do what we want. Zeus replied cockily but got shot down when a black void-like arm came out of the ground and shut him up. He is easily stronger than me with only 2% of his power, while all titans, primordial gods and gods are my power, but now imagine his power only at 2% defeating everything. Chaos shouted before she flashed away in annoyance from her great-great-grandson's arrogance. Heh, she's just bluffing. I can defeat this guy like a piece of cake and I'm sure I can beat Chaos easily. Zeus stated cockily and arrogantly. All the gods except Ares just looked at him like he was crazy. Half-blood. After all the campers stood back up with their still ever-present pale faces staring at him and his children with shock, add the fact that Naruto just bedded two goddess, but the goddess of beauty and marriage, making him a god to the teen boys, he already is hahaha. WL isn't that a surprise? Chiron said to me and my children. Not really, I was expecting something like this to happen. I said to Chiron considering the fact I told Hera and Aphrodite once their children get here they would claim them immediately or in a day. Annabeth, come here. Chiron shouted and waited for a minute before a blonde preteen girl with the age of 13 standing 5'3" feet and stunningly grey eyes. But not long after Chiron trotted up to them with her on his back and said Annabeth will be your guide for the day. As if on K she jumps off Chiron's horseback and walks over them and introduced herself. Hi, I'm Annabeth. She said with a somewhat cheery attitude. Rain Namikaze. Rain introduced with the now ever-present attitude of Uchiha when seeing strangers. EMS and changed attitude since Naruto is Yubi with Uchiha. Hikari Namikaze. Hikari shouted with a glee, innocent expression. Naruto Namikaze, father of these two children, I introduced myself as. Before she started walking away and pointing at the gardens and rivers when we eventually stopped where 12 cabins stood. And cabin introductions. Well, that's pretty much the gist of it. Annabeth said, snapping me out of the trance that I didn't know I was in before looking her with a curious glance and realized that it was the end of the tour. Thank you Annabeth for this tour, but if I have any questions later on will I be able to contact you? I said. Yes, I'll be at cabin 6, bye Naruto. Annabeth said as she walked away from me. It was about dawn when I heard a horn that Annabeth told me that it says dinner time with 2 blowhorn is invasion before I walked out of my Mokutan house and went to a table I made. Before I saw my children and smiled a big shit-eating grin at them and waving my hand like a mad scientist who found a way to destroy the world in 1 second. Dad. They said together. How are you doing kids and how do you like camp so far? I said with absolute glee of seeing my children. Great, the people are really nice to me even if I am the son of Hera. Rain said, removing the I am better than you Uchiha tone in his voice. Me too, but the boys stare at me with these red cheeks and faint when I ask them are you alright? Hikari said with obliviousness like her father with being dense as hell. We started chatting before we saw this wooden lady come up to us and drop some food for us, but I quickly recognized as a nymph when we all caught the fact that people were walking up and sacrificing their food into the campfire before an older camper told us that we sacrifice food to the gods and goddesses. Me and my children walk up to the campfire and I sacrifice some of my food and think Hera and Aphrodite with both my children doing the same, but their respective mothers. After dinner me and my children talk for a bit before I walk back to my cabin house and go to sleep while the whole camp doing the same. Morning at camp Half-Blood. Honk the sound of the horn blowing, signaling it is time to wake up with Naruto waking up with a groan and thinking screw the sun let me sleep. But quickly realized that they weren't and got dressed in a blood-red shirt saying Dadabayo on it and some black shinobi pants before walking out of my house to greet the sight of many campers exiting their cabins too. I then make my way to the table I had made before when the nymphs began passing out food doing the same sacrificing, but I then realized the train was eating alone before making my way to him and sat next to him. Good morning son, how you doing? I said to him with a somewhat cheerful tone. Fine, a bit sleepy since you usually wake us up later than this. My son replied. I then proceed to stuff my face into my breakfast that conceited ramen and gobbled it up like my children, with people staring us like we're gods, since we literally consumed a large bowl of ramen in less than 5 seconds. Before we all heard trotting of Chiron's hooves and making an announcement campers today we will be having spars, please get ready and finish breakfast. This made me smile in delight with my children's of fighting, since they picked up the fact of his thirst of battle ever since the 4th Shinobi War. Everybody finished breakfast before making our ways to the sparring arena with the 3 Namikaze smiling somewhat sadistic kind of smile, with bloodlust laced into it. Sparring arenas. After some boring spars it was finally time for Naruto's turn, while Chiron shouted Naruto Namikaze vs Luke Castellian. We both make our ways to the arena before we heard start. I rushed at him with cage level speed since it was the lowest speed I had, but to others, it was nothing but a shimmer out of existence to an image in front of Luke before punching him in the face, sending him back 1 meter. Not bad Naruto, but don't stop fighting, keep coming at me. Luke shouted but was quickly shut up by another punch to the gut that sent him another meter back. I then sighed and said I'm getting bored, but as much as I like to dance with you, I need to end this. I gather chakra into my hands forming a spear-like look into it before saying Chidori Enso. With the lightning piercing his thigh causing him to fall down before Chiron called the medics. Before starting the next math Chiron shouted Rain Namikaze versus Percy Jackson. Piece of some wedding cake. Rain said, get it wedding cake. Causing Percy to fume at the insult of being low level to this teen. But stopped when Chiron said start. Rain started going through the hand signs at a rapid speed for a fire jutsu and shouting fire style. Great majestic flames. And releasing a fairly large wall of flames, while Percy countered with a wave of water causing steam to arise. Percy then created a water spear and threw it at Rain, but he countered it with a strong fire jutsu and made hand signs before shouting fire style. Great fire dragon. Percy countered again with a water wall before Rain finally ended it with Chidori Nagashi shocking Percy and knocking him out. Winner, Rain Namikaze. Chiron announced before the 12 Olympian gods flashed in. Minutes before in Olympus. I don't care if he is a primordial god because I'm Zeus and nobody can defeat me. Zeus shouted with Ares nodding in agreement because of this primordial took his plaything Aphrodite. Yeah. He took my Aphrodite and I'll destroy this guy in a minute. Ares said cockily but boy was he wrong. The other gods just shook their heads at the two about their antics that was before they heard something that shocked them. Maybe I'll just go down there and kill him myself. Zeus said. I'll join too. Ares said in agreement with bloodlust in his eyes and both father and son both teleported down to Camp Half-Blood to make sure their children were alright and that the fight wasn't going to destroy the land. Present. Naruto turned his head to meet two Olympian gods consisting Zeus and Ares, but both had furious expressions before seeing the other gods and goddess teleporting down. With Poseidon going to greet Sally and his son Percy. I demand you to fight me Naruto Namikaze. Zeus said. What about no? I replied back even though I did like a good fight, but there was children's here. They call you a primordial god, you're nothing but a coward. Ares said getting a furious expression from Naruto. Nah, just don't want to scare the kids or kill them on accident considering us god or primordial gods can cause some damage. I replied back to Ares before Ares shouted. We will create a barrier to protect the people now let's fight. Ares said before both Zeus and Ares charged with Jonin level speed and tried to backhand Naruto before. Weak. I said before knocking them on the neck causing them to stumble before they charged again, but with a bit faster speed, I then charged chakra to my hand and used the super botch and fist of Almighty, which created a huge crater and wide eyes from the audience and God's goddess. They both stumbled into the crater that was about 30 miles deep and I jumped in with the two before engaging them into a taijutsu fight before Zeus called down the lightning which I redirected with a Chiron, before they all blinked there was a Chinese western dragon in the air coming down on both Zeus and Ares. They both got hit and screamed in pain but less pain to Zeus due to the fact his element is lightning. Arg Zeus screamed out in pain with Ares doing the same. They both stood up from the attack but had shattered clothing and some black burned skin. You still up for more? I said charging some chakra to my mouth and created a fire style. Great fire annihilation breathing out a 10-mile radius of fire with Zeus calling on the wind but only in his case, charge the fire even stronger, making it white hot because the flames of mines are so dense with chakra, wind does nothing to it unless it is my wind in that case. Before the fire reached them scorching them before I stopped them chakra flow to the flames. They then collapsed before the people broke out of their stupor and announced W in Naruto Namikaze. Chiron said stuttering. And approximately 1 minute later the crowd broke into cheers, except for the Ares cabin and some of the friends of the Ares cabin, but none of them can doubt that fight was amazing. Both Hera and Aphrodite flashed towards him and started asking him questions like if he was alright or if he wanted to have sex, considering how hot he looked when he was fighting. When my children both walked towards him and bombarded him with questions. You're gonna teach us that right dad? Right. Hikari shouted screamed out before she was glumped by Aphrodite. Dad you're amazing. Rain screamed out at the last word, but he too was glumped by his mother Hera. I missed you so much Rain Hikari. Both mothers shouted, but at different times, they both failed to realize the father sulking in the corner with words floating above his head. I'm not pissed. Why I cried out with tears flowing down the corners of my eyes. All gods, goddess and children, teens and adults, not many, turned their heads toward him and some of them even had stars in their eyes. The children except the Ares cabin ran up to him and bombarded him with questions just like his own children did like you are so cool. And teach me. And last but not least have my children. Which resulted into a face fault from Naruto, but said person said it in a monotone. Said person was completely thrown away by both Hera and Aphrodite with demonic auras around them, looks like Naruto's sperm can do more than give children, but give them some of his demonic powers. Oh shit, Naruto thought, thinking about how whipped he was because they have his powers and women are scary. On. After dinner that happened a while after the spar, Naruto went back to his Mokutan house and took a quick shower and thinking about his past during the war. Flashback. Fire style. Great majestic flames of Kami Madara shouted, spewing out a large flame before it was countered. Water style. Great water wall, the Shinobi Alliance shouted back and gathering water from a nearby source, and a large water wall was created before it collided with the fire and created a large amount of steam. Wind style. Great vacuum bullets, Naruto shouted out before releasing a large amount of wind bullets at Madara, who used his speed to shimmer out of existence to dodge the bullets. Lightning style. False darkness, the lightning users shouted, releasing a large amount of lightning at Madara, who countered. Fire style. Great fire annihilation, Madara shouted, releasing once again a large amount of fire, but this time much more denser and hotter. Sasuke. Naruto shouted before getting a nod doing their combo attack. Wind style. Big Bull Rasen Shuriken and Susanoo. Flame control before both hitting together and shouting together. Scorch style. Halo Jet Black Arrow style 1, creating a large amount of fire and wind, making a black fire Rasen Shuriken hitting Madara, who simply Kamui it away before finally shouting. Ahahaha, Uzumaki, I finally have all 9 essences of the Bijuu, even if it isn't a lot I can still remake the Juubi. Madara shouted before saying Kai, unleashing a dense chakra with more killing intent that made Kyuubi look like an ant to see a giant creature with 10 tails and 1 eye with a Rinnegan and 3 tomos in each circle. Shit, they all thought before Juubi unleashed to Imari, destroying 4/6 of the Shinobi Alliance with Madara, following with a Chibaku Tensei, creating a large meteor, falling on another part of the Shinobi Alliance, causing even more screams of pain before dying with 1/6 of the army left. Juubi used Bijuu shockwave, making a giant shockwave, destroying everything in its path before it was about to hit Naruto, but Sasuke quickly ran toward him and Shinra Tensei'd him away from the shockwave, nearly killing Sasuke and destroying his lower body, making him paraplegic before saying his last words to Naruto and giving him his eyes. Flashback end. I was knocked out of my thoughts when I heard something or someone open the door, revealing both Aphrodite and Hera, which shocked him since he never really got to know Hera, unlike Aphrodite. She and Naruto went on some days before she left because of the bulge in her stomach, which she didn't tell him about the pregnancy. Hello ladies. I casually said to them, but realized they were naked as the day they were born, causing him to harden instantly. Aphrodite, seeing the tip of his tool poking out of the water, smirked and decided to tease him before starting their activities. Oh my, is somebody excited? Aphrodite cooed at him. No, of course not, when there are 2 of the beautiful people in the world are naked in front of me, I said sarcastically, which got a small blush to go on both of the goddesses' faces. What if Naruto gets Hera pregnant? Percy Jackson end here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.